The buffet of tasty wings continues on the Friday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. It's the top 5 right wingers in the fantasy game that you need to own. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All of this talk about spicy wings is getting us extra hungry and fired up to dive into the top 5 right wingers in the NHL and the fantasy game on the latest episode of your daily source for fantasy hockey news. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Salute to the everydayers, shout out, and a thank you for holding us down and making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Mr. Roden, these top 5 wingers at the right side. The top of the list was a little bit more in flux. These 5, and that's why I think today's episode can be really short and sweet. I don't see much debate here. These 5 wingers have established themselves as the best at the position in this game. I'm over to you early, my friend. We're up and at 'em here on Friday to get this paper. You know what it is. Who you taking a look at number 5? Because I think there's a couple of our boys here in blue and white that we get to talk about on today's episode.
Yeah, and this is why it's so very, for us, it's very happy to talk about. I mean, we get to talk about 2 Maple Leaf players right here. And I think this is where 5 and 4, they could be interchangeable, but at the end of the day, they're set in stone as the top 5 right wingers in the National Hockey League. At number 5, I do have Mitch Marner. Some people might have Mitch Marner ahead on this list, and maybe in the 4th position, but Mitch Marner for me is the 5th best right winger going into this season. And I think when you talk about what happened last year, especially in the playoffs, I think Marner's heard the noise. He's heard all the criticism targeted and thrown in his direction from Maple Leafs fans, from just hockey fans in general, about how he played in the playoffs, being a little bit too passive at times and not really being there when it really mattered. So going into this season, I mean, you've mentioned it time and time again. When we talk about regular season, he's an absolute stud. He gets it done offensively. He's one of the best playmakers, one of the best passers in the National Hockey League. And he's so creative with the puck. Sometimes it does get him in trouble, costly turnovers at the blue line because he's being so cutesy with the puck, trying to doodle around the defenseman. But when it works, and it's tremendous to watch. So Mitch Marner in the regular season is an absolute stud. 3 seasons ago, career high 97 points in 72 games. Sorry, 3 seasons ago, 97 points. 2 seasons ago, career high 99 points. And then last year, 85 points in 69 games. Has yet to hit triple digits in the National Hockey League, but he is one of those players that he's bound to do it eventually. He probably could have done it last year if he was able to stay healthy and play a full 82 regular game season. But unfortunately wasn't able to. And last year had a career high of 16.5 shooting percentage. So his shot total was down, but the shooting percentage was up. I think this is a player that can get back to that 30 goal realm, which we saw him do the 2 prior seasons to last year. And honestly, if he can stay healthy, he can get to 100 points this next season.
Most definitely.
It's an absolute stud. He's a playmaker. He's an absolute stud on the power play. Austin Matthews on the top line, William Nylander, all those, John Tavares. He gets to play with all these players. They get to play with him, and he gets it done offensively because he's so smart with the puck sometimes. Sometimes it costs him. Sometimes, he makes tremendous plays. But for me, Mitch Marner's number 5 right winger you got to look for this upcoming season.
I appreciate you bringing up the angle of the postseason sometimes overinflating or improperly deflating a player's value. And in this case, I think it's one of the situations of, because of the Leafs' lack of success, Marner's focus as the guy who catches a lot of heat for these losses, he has 50 points in 57 career postseason games. The Leafs haven't been able to get it done. That's a fact. Mitch Marner has done nothing but produce. And I don't know if you saw Mac Daddy Nathan McKinnon in the news earlier this week, and I got a quote for you defending him. If you don't
Yeah,
believe
saw the
Steele and
quote.
I, believe one of the best players that we've seen lace him up in a long time. Quote, Marner gets a lot of flack in Toronto. Honestly, he's one of the best players in the league. I play with some of the best players in the league. Fact. And when I skate with Marnes, he's right up there with anybody I've seen. There's a lot of good players, and he's stuck out as one of the best. There you go right there. Mitch Marner's a special offensive talent, and I think, Steele, you also hit it out of the park with. He's heard the noise. He's in a contract year. You are going to get a motivated Mitch Marner. I took him in one of our mock drafts last week, and I think you're going to be able to get him at a really, really good price, considering all the hate being thrown at him. Don't read into it. This guy is going to blow the doors off the league this year offensively. I really do see it, along with his boy, Willie Stiles. And I got him at 4, Steele. And look, speaking of catching flack, you mentioned it with his migraines or the head issues or whatever. He took a lot of heat for that in the postseason last year. Number one, he should be fully healthy and ready to go for this season. Back-to-back 40-goal years have him primed for another big offensive year. Steele, when he came back against the Boston Bruins, he almost single-handedly took the Leafs through to the second round. 3 goals in 4 games in this past postseason, and the game winner in Game 6 to push it to Game 7. So he's clutch. He's dangerous. He's got amazing skating ability and one of the best releases in the game. So on that top line, also playing with somebody named Austin Matthews, so much to like about what Willie brings to the table. Power play points, goals, shots on net. You do not draft this player for peripheral category coverage, not a part of his game. Hits and block shots, obviously low. I don't hate 24 penalty minutes. However, he's got to be the 4th best right winger in the fantasy game this season.
Yeah, I also have him as the 4th best right winger this upcoming season. And let's not get it twisted. If William Nylander, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner were all playing at the same time in that first round against the Boston Bruins, they would have beat them. No questions asked. They would have beat. Hey, look, I'm not making excuses. They still lost. They still could have beat them without him. But if all 3 of them were healthy and they were playing all together in all 7 games, no question they would have won that first round series. Regardless of that, William Nylander comes in at number 4 for myself as well. I love the way this player has developed and improved his overall game, all-around game over the last 2 seasons. He's going into the dirty areas. Yeah, he's not being so passive and letting players or letting his opposition get to the puck first when he has the chance to beat out an icing or get the puck in the corner. He's doing all of that now. You know, the new move in his bag, going out to in, around the net corner and coming in, going to the far side. So I like the new moves and the new, creative skills that he's bringing into his bag. Look, like you said, back-to-back 40-goal seasons, career high 98 points this last year. Guy doesn't seem like it, but he's been durable. He's only missed 1 game in the last 3 seasons. He's played 82 games the last 2 years. The point total has continued to gone up. 80 points, 87 points, 98 points. Another player alongside Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews who has potential to reach 100 points this next season if they can continue to stay healthy, dominate on the power play like we've seen this team do in the regular season in the past. Obviously, they struggled last year a little bit towards the end of the season, but there's no question that they can get back into shape and form and be a consistent top power play team across the league. So I like the way this player has really formed and shaped his game over the last 2 seasons. When we first started doing this podcast, I was on him about being very passive, being one of the guys who wasn't getting into the physical aspect of the game, but we're starting to see that a lot more with him, especially in the playoffs last year when he did play. So I like the way he's developed his game. Overall, fantasy-wise, 4th best right winger.
7th best power play in the league for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you can't help but feel that was a little bit disappointing of a finish for them. Clicking at 24%, still one of the best power play units in the game, so there's that value. There's a lot of changes in Toronto this season behind the bench. Mark Savard comes in as the power play coach and assistant. Lane Lambert is going to come in to run the penalty kill for Craig Berube, another new coach behind the bench. So it's hard to predict what that will mean in fantasy. You can't help but feel when the players are this good, it's just going to mean more good things. Just like the rest of today's episode and the top 5 list. 4 right wingers. Tap into next week's episodes. Monday, mock draft. We're going to hit the center position and a little bit more spicy wing action out on the left side. So make sure you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning championships is also what keeps your number one ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time of your money back. With eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, baby. And with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to take your car to the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure for your second listen, you go enjoy the Locked On NHL podcast. Locked On NHL provides you with a national perspective on all things NHL each and every day with national experts and local insight on every team. Available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Flip, continuing the conversation of top 5 right wingers in fantasy hockey this upcoming season.
Yes,
Mitch Marner at number 5, William Nylander at number 4. At number 3, I think this is, we must have the same list when it gets to the top 5. At number 3, I have Mikko Rantanen. I assume you also have Mikko Rantanen.
Yes, sir.
This guy is an absolute stud. And I think over the last few seasons, he was also in that category of where he was getting overlooked a lot. Not overlooked in the sense of where he was getting drafted fantasy-wise, but because of the players he was playing with, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, they were getting a lot of the spotlight. But, over the last few seasons as well, you've seen to come that a little bit more towards him and get his time in the light. So Mikko Rantanen in the last 2 seasons has been just incredible. 2 back-to-back 100-plus points, 105 the year prior, 104 this last season, 80 games played, 82 games. He's been very durable over the last 2 seasons, 40-plus goals the last year where he had 55 as well, career high for him in the 2022-2023 season. Over 270 shots this guy puts up, 50 penalty minutes, 82 penalty minutes. He really does it all alongside Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. A guy who can really take over when you need him to. He's a goal-scoring machine. He's got one of the best wrist shots in the game right now on the short side. I really like watching this player, and I think him playing with Nathan McKinnon, it makes them both great hockey players to watch. So Mikko Rantanen, for me, he's a top pick in the draft, first
Most
round
definitely.
draft pick. We do our mock drafts every Monday. He's somewhere, I could take him as high as 6. He's somewhere in that 6, 7, 8 realm right now for me. But Mikko Rantanen, this is a strong right wingers group right here. So he's first round, at least 7th or 8th pick in the draft.
When you're looking at a player who combines his size with speed and skill, and also one of the things that has come up a lot of these times where we're talking about the top 5, especially on these lists, it's how smart they are on the ice. Hockey IQ, they have all of it. And when you can piece it all together, you cement yourself into the realm of fantasy royalty. And that's what this player has done. This is one of those things, Steele. Did you even know that he's almost 6'5"? He's pushing 220 pounds. He can use his size as well. Nasty one-time shot release. And when you look at these players in the fantasy game that you want a piece of, we just mentioned it with Willie playing with Poppy. Mikko Rantanen gets to play with Nathan McKinnon. That establishes him as a darling in the fantasy game even more so. 42 goals last year, 62 assists, 50 penalty minutes, 9 game-winning goals. He chips in peripherally as well, 53 hits, 49 block shots, 271 shots on net, Steele, considering how good he is shooting that bad boy. I want to see 100 more shots. I know that's hard to do when you're playing right with a guy like McKinnon and you got Makar on the back end firing away. So that might be a stretch. I just think if that number goes up at all, he could definitely see an increase in point production, and he's hit triple digits back-to-back years, so that's a dangerous thing for opponents if you're able to grab Mikko Rantanen. Look, most teams would be lucky to have one or two of the elite pieces they have, and they have three of them. Not many squads in the NHL have that, and guess what? Not many squads have recent banners hanging in the rafters in their home arenas, and the Colorado Avalanche are one of them. Mikko Rantanen, a big reason why, however, he doesn't come into the top two. And that somehow shows you how good David Pastrnak and Nikita Kucherov are. And when I think about David Pastrnak at number 2, Steele, and this player in general, you and I have talked about and maybe wished and hoped and prayed for the downfall of the Boston Bruins, and it hasn't happened. And one of the main reasons why is because David Pastrnak. And when I think of this player, I think of two things: consistency and lethally accurate shooter. The guy is one of the best in the business, and he has game-changing goal-scoring ability. Pasta comes in at number 2 for me in the right wing.
Number 2 for me as well. He is an absolute snipe show out there in the corner. I mean, I just look back to I think it was one of his first goals last season or 2 years ago, where he absolutely ripped it from the boards on his backhand bar down on Igor Shesterkin. I mean, he can score from any angle he wants to. And it shows over the last 3 seasons of his career: 40 goals, 61 goals, 47 goals in the last 3 years. The last 2 seasons, 110 plus points for the lad. I mean, like you said, we figured this Bruins team would take a little bit of a regression at some point, and Pastrnak doesn't allow them to. Obviously, they had some stud goaltending from Swayman and Linus Ullmark the last few seasons, but Pastrnak refuses to let this team go down when he's still there. So Pastrnak is an absolute stud. I mean, he gets it done on even strength majority for the most part.
There he is.
30 plus power play points for the lad as well. But I mean, he gets it done 5-on-5, for the most part of his career as well. But I mean, like you said, 70 hits, 19 blocks. You're going to get the volume of shots from this guy as well. 382 shots last year, 407 the year prior to that. So for me, David Pastrnak, he is the second best right winger. And this team's gotten better, honestly. On paper, they've gotten better, and overall, they've gotten better. They bring in Elias Lindholm at that center position. They move Pavel Zacha over to the wing. Charlie Coyle has been a very underrated centerman for them over the last few seasons as well. They bring in Nikita Zadorov on the blue line. I mean, they've continued to get better, even though the goaltending maybe took a little bit of a dip, trading Linus Ullmark for Jonas Korpisalo, and still have yet to sign Jeremy Swayman. David Pastrnak second on that list, and he refuses to let this Bruins fall down in the Atlantic Division.
What's really intriguing for this upcoming year is what is he going to do with Elias Lindholm? Look, Pastrnak had a really good offseason with the Czech team, obviously winning at the Worlds. That was a fun party. That time has passed now, and it's back to business. And I do think they're going to be in tough to make noise in this division. Let me just hit you with this. We expect Ottawa to be improved. We expect Detroit to be improved. We have a look at Buffalo as a really dangerous team. There's going to be some clubs, and we haven't even talked about the Leafs, Bolts, or the reigning Cup champs. So there is going to be a really good team left on the cutting room floor. Elias Lindholm's chemistry with Pasta is something I have my eyes peeled on, because this is either going to do the Bruins what they do and it works out sensationally, or maybe we finally have a little bit of a downfall from this team. Steele, there's a lot of pressure on Charlie Coyle, Matthew Poitras, some of these pieces that, we like them, but they are going to need to get some offense from someone other than David Pastrnak, and that's clear. What's clear is we got some more fire to talk about after the break. Nikita Kucherov, the Tampa Bay Lightning, baby. I can't wait for the puck to drop on this season, Steele, so let's get there.
Top 5 draft pick in this upcoming season. Nikita Kucherov makes it to the top of the list here, and we'll break it all down, of course, after the break. But first, this episode is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for candidates isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to an Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. Flip, I have been saving this for Nikita Kucherov. I need to get it out there. This is, look, I'm taking the playbook out of Stephen A. Smith's book over here.
Whoa.
Nikita Kucherov, number 1 on the board. He is a bad man, baby. He is a bad man. He is so good.
I wasn't ready for the Stephen A. reference, but here we go.
I wasn't ready for the Stephen A., but I'm bringing it in hot and heavy here. Nikita Kucherov is a bad man out there. 144 points this last season. Career high for Kucherov. Back-to-back seasons of 100-plus points. There was a point in his career where he was one of those guys who was injury prone. You couldn't depend on him. Even though he was a point per game player, he was a stud when he was on the ice. You couldn't depend on him to stay healthy for a full season. He was still a first-round draft pick, second-round draft pick, maybe with some of those injuries when he was out, 68 games played, 74 games played. But regardless, the last 2 seasons, he's only missed 1. He's 34 years old. Let me get this right. He's 31 years old. He's in full health right now. He hasn't missed a lot of games over the last 2 seasons, and he's one of the best playmakers in the game, especially on the power play. He can find you with his eyes closed, with his hands tied behind his back. He'll still get you tape to tape. So Nikita Kucherov, he's a goal scorer at heart as well, but he's a playmaker first and foremost. 100 assists this last season. He did that alongside Connor McDavid last year, which was incredible to witness for all of us hockey fans out there. Gets it done on the power play, 13 power play goals, 40 power play assists, 45 hits, 35 blocks, 306 shots. He fills out all those peripheral categories you're looking for, especially on the offensive side of things. But it's incredible to watch him play. He's a little bit of a dirty player out there. He can antagonize and get the best out of his opposition and get his team on the power play.
Yeah, he's greasy.
He's greasy out there. He can be, and he's a little bit. He can be a little bit of a dirty player, but it's all part of his game and part of his mantra. Nikita Kucherov, top line playing with Braden Point and newly acquired Jake Gensel. I think that's going to be an absolute incredible line this upcoming season. Braden Point is one of those guys I'm looking at. I think he kind of falls down the cracks a little bit, and when you draft him, he's an absolute stud for your fantasy team. But Kucherov, first-round draft pick, top 5 player in the National Hockey League right now. Absolutely incredible to watch him play and what he did last year.
It is incredible to watch him play, and he seemingly does it with ease. He makes these amazing plays look really, really easy, and we've said it on this show before. It's been covered. But when you have your name in the mix with not only Connor McDavid now, but the 3 players previous, Bobby Orr, Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, Nikita Kucherov, now we really need to start paying attention to what this man has been doing on the ice. And let's not forget, 2 cups, 2 Art Ross, a Hart Trophy. He is a 5-time All-Star, and headed into this season, Steele, we've spoken about this. McDavid, McKinnon, I am totally fine if Nikita Kucherov is the third or fourth player off the board, and he should be. And he's established himself in the NHL as one of the best in the business. Thank you for bringing up the line trio. I don't think there's many trios headed into this season as dangerous and balanced as those three. They're going to give opposition fits. You brought up the power play. Tampa Bay, 28.6 on the power play proficiency last year. That's better than the Rangers, Oilers, Avs, Stars, Leafs, and otherwise. I don't think this team is getting nearly enough respect headed into this season. Jake Gensel over Steven Stamkos, that's an upgrade. This team has a healthy Andrei Vasilevsky. They still have Victor Hedman. I think they are not getting nearly enough love headed into this year. Maybe that's just me, and I'm reading into it a bit too much. This team is going to be a force to be reckoned with coming out of their wingman, Nikita Kucherov, one of the best in the business.
Yeah, it's very tough. I mean, we look at this Atlantic Division team,
and we will do that.
Atlantic Division teams. They're probably the best division in the league right now. A lot of teams on the come up. Yep. Ottawa Senators we're excited what their young studs bring to the table. Buffalo, Detroit, even Montreal. Montreal's not a playoff team, but we're excited about what
they're on the come up.
They're on the come up as well. So this is a tough division. Reigning Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Of course, you got our boys in the blue and white Toronto Maple Leafs, and then the other blue and white Tampa Bay Lightning. So tough division. We'll have to break it all down with our division predictions for this upcoming season. Who makes the playoffs, who doesn't make the playoffs, but you'll stay tuned for all of that and more in the month of September and in October. We'll get to all of that. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. For your second listen, once again, go check out the Locked On NHL Podcast, where this season never ends, providing national expertise with a local perspective. You can find it in the link below in the description for the Locked On NHL. So you don't need to search for them. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with your bets, and we shall see you back here again on Monday.
Peace.